One day, I found a radio in an abandoned shop. Miraculously, it still worked. Desperate for any distraction from my maddening loneliness and sorrow, I spent hours searching through the static for voices, for any proof that I wasn't the last human alive. Finally, I found one, a faint flickering signal at the very limit of the radio's range. The speaker's voice was worn and tired, but it still sparked a small thrill in me. I called out to them, hardly daring to hope for a response. To my amazement, they replied. The voice belonged to a woman named Kate. She was holed up in a makeshift shelter a few dozen miles from my position. Like me, she was alone, the sole survivor of her group. We talked for hours, sharing our stories, marveling that we'd found each other in the wasteland. In the following weeks, Kate became my lifeline, the only bright spot in the smothering darkness. We talked every day, sometimes for hours. She was funny and tough and determined to keep living despite everything. Slowly, I felt my will to survive rekindling. We made plans to meet up, to combine our resources and watch out for each other. It was risky. The journey would expose us to the machines and other unknown dangers. But the thought of seeing another living human face to face, of not being alone anymore, made it feel worth it. The night before I was due to set out, Kate and I stayed up late on the radio, too excited and anxious to sleep. We talked about all the things we missed from the old world, all our hopes for the future, meager as they were. For the first time in months, I felt something like happiness stirring in my chest. But our conversation was suddenly interrupted by a sound I'd come to dread, the harsh buzzing of the alien machines. They were close, closer than they'd been in weeks. Kate's voice rose in alarm, then cut off abruptly in a burst of static. The radio went dead. I called her name over and over, frantically adjusting the dials in search of her signal, but there was nothing, only an empty hiss. Deep in my gut, I knew what had happened. The machines had found Kate. She was gone. I sank to my knees, utterly devastated. The one small hope I'd been nurturing, the dream of companionship and solidarity, had been snuffed out in an instant. I was alone again, more alone than ever. And I knew with grim certainty I would remain that way until my dying day. I knew I was living on borrowed time. Sooner or later, my luck would run out, or I'd simply lose the will to keep going. The end of my story was written, had been written, since the day the invasion began. All that was left was to wait for it, to bear witness to humanity's demise for however many days or months remained to me. Still, in my darkest moments, I looked up at the sky where the invaders lurked and whispered a question, though I knew there would never be an answer. "Why?" I asked them. "Why are you doing this? What did we ever do to you?" The machines, as always, kept their counsel, and eventually my own voice faded away too, swallowed by the colossal silence at the end of the world.